How the heck are you doing? Today we're going to be trying extra long nails for the very first time and painting them based off of some holo energy cards from the Pokemon trading card game. Pokemon's for nerds, am I right? Without further ado, let's get into the set. I'll be doing this design on a set of extra long coffin tips from the Painted Desert. As usual, I applied it over my peel-off base, and if you want to see how I apply my tips over peel-off base, I'll put a link to that video in the top right corner and also in the description. Do you ever have one of those sets that's like a time warp? You're thinking, wow, I did that so quickly. That went really well. And then you look at the clock and 4 days have passed. I can't even begin to guess why these took me so long, but at least they ended up rocking, so I let it slide. The funny thing is, when I sat down to do these, I convinced myself that I was just going to do something simple today, and I ended up applying homemade decals on 2-inch long nails that took me roughly 5 hours. Such is life. As you can see, I started off applying 1,000,001 colors, and once the base layers were applied, I went over top of them with some holographic gel polishes that I got from iGel Beauty. I didn't show the bottles for these because I used every single color in the collection, just a couple of them I mixed together. So if you're interested in this set, I will leave a link to it in the description below. And they're really nice and versatile because, as you can see, I mixed some of them, like the silver one, with some jelly polish so the glitter can still show through, but it tints it, so you can really have endless colors of holographic. When applied, these holos are sheer, so they do let the color underneath show through, which isn't a problem for me because that's kind of what I wanted. But you can definitely build up the color with 3 coats-ish, 3 or 4. You can get an opaque finish with these. But honestly, it's just way easier to paint 1 layer of a base coat and then the holographic. I think it makes it a little more bold. So once I have those kajillion colors applied, I'm taking some circles I cut out of removable vinyl on my Cricut machine, and I'm going to be using them as stencils for the inner part of the energy card. If you are using stencils like this, make sure to wipe the tacky layer off of the gel before applying them, or they will not stick very well. I definitely could have used my airbrush for this next part, but in an attempt to take a shortcut, I effectively made it a long cut. I didn't want to deal with cleaning the airbrush and cleaning the paint off my skin, so instead I used a makeup sponge dipped in some white gel polish. After nearly every nail was done, I found a strategy that worked well to do this. First I dabbed a dense white border around my stencil, then rotated the sponge to reveal a clean part and used that to fade out the edges. And that gave me the perfect smoky kind of glow that I was looking for. Those white orbs have now been cured, so I went ahead and peeled the guides off. I know some of the white had bled into the centers, but that is totally fine because we are covering up this inner circle. You might be wondering why I used a stencil if it didn't matter if it bled underneath, and it's because it is really hard to paint circles on a nail, especially 10 ones that are the same size. And the edge of the white ring we created gives a nice little lip to help keep the inner circles nice and crispy. Essentially, I just had to fill the little bowl it created with the colors I wanted. Then I used a detail brush, this is the Ugly Duckling Detailer 2, to get the polish right to the edge. And I repeated that on all of the nails. I did have to do 2 coats on all of the circles because the color just was not going on as even as I wanted it to. And for the yellow and the green nails, I wanted the colors to stay nice and vibrant, and I didn't want to have to do 1,000 coats of them, so I did start those ones off with a white base before going in with the yellow and the green. I was so worried about this color I mixed when I saw it on my palette, but in conjunction with the gold, I think it turned out pretty well. Now to sit back and relax as my Cricut cuts out some decals for me out of permanent glossy black vinyl. Before doing so, again, I wiped the tacky layer off of the colors to ensure that the decals stuck the way that they should. If you're interested in learning how to make your own nail decals, let me know and I'll gladly record how I created these. You apply these just like you would a regular sticker, so just line them up and press them down. The ones on this hand are a little simpler than the ones on the other. These ones are all pretty much entirely in one piece. On the other hand, the decals are broken up into several smaller pieces, so I will be showing you how to apply those ones without having to place each individual section one by one. After finishing up this hand, I had a while to stare at them and I just felt like something was missing. They looked good, but it just needed a finishing touch. I ended up adding one extra detail on the other hand and then copying it over here. The first part of the process, though, remains the same. I just applied my guides and then used my sponge to dab the white around the edges, faded it outwards, and then peeled the guides off. I'll spare you all the extra footage, and instead I'll just show you the colors I used to fill in the inner circles. Now here's where I added one extra detail. It seems super minor, but honestly I think it did a lot to make the icons pop. I went ahead and grabbed my detail brush again and outlined all these circles with a white border, and I went from sorta liking the set to loving them. The decals on this hand also required a different application. Some of the symbols have multiple parts to them, such as the metal and the fairy nail. And while, again, you could just place each individual piece and kind of fuss with having to line everything up, I found it a lot easier to just take a scrap piece of transfer tape and pick everything all up at once. For a second, when I peeled back the transfer tape, I thought I was getting flipped off, but crisis averted, it's just a ring finger. If you don't have transfer tape, I imagine this would work pretty similarly if you used regular tape, but again, you don't really have to worry about doing this unless your decals are broken up into little pieces like these three were, but the purple and the blue nail were just one piece, so I just put those on regular. Again, before doing all of that, I did wipe the sticky layer off of the circles. Finally, we can top coat these babies, and I would recommend doing so twice. Anytime you have a design that isn't just gel. So here is the finished set. I gotta say, I never got used to the length of these nails, but I did feel glamorous while asking my boyfriend to do everything for me. In my rather conservative town, to say I got weird looks every time I left the house is an understatement. Granted, I don't go out very often, but I guess that's probably for the best. If you made it to the end, thanks so much, I'm flattered. Make sure to like it if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to hang out with me again.